The 2300 arena with another Dynamite. Bryan Danielson makes his way to the ring with the crowd chanting yes. And this whole coming of Danielson is because he's going to be on commentary. I don't get why they started the show like this, but whatever. That aside, Hangman comes to the ring for the first match. Hangman against Josh Alexander in a grudge match. Bryan is putting Hangman over. Josh comes out. Of course, alongside Don Callis, Rocky Romero, and Lance Archer. We get picture-in-picture of last week's main event as the guys are making their way to the ring. You know what? The Fed should also learn to do this for their recaps, so wrestlers don't come out during the ad breaks and stuff like that. I think that would be very helpful. The match starts. On commentary, Don gives Bryan the stink eye, really looking very evilly. That's the word now. Evilly at Bryan. It's a pretty hard-hitting match. The crowds are going out of their way for Hangman. It's a hard-hitting match with chops and forearms. Usual stuff. A brainbuster on the apron earlier too. They really are putting the word grudge in grudge match with this one. Too bad Wardlow is injured and can't be in this match or story or anything, to be honest. Hangman comes back with a Death Valley driver and a fallaway slam. We were close to a double countout, but they saved it. Liger bomb from Hangman to a 2 count. Josh gets an ankle lock, and he has to let it go as Hangman reaches the ropes. Dead eye from Hangman, then he follows it with a moonsault to the outside of the ring, which is quite stupid in my opinion, but whatever. As you'd expect from an AEW show, we get interference from the Callis family, but Hangman beats them, a buckshot, and a 3 count. The Callis family leave with their tails between their legs. Of course, Josh Alexander loses again, because why not at this point? Hangman cuts a promo. He refers to the World Championship as the Men's World Championship. Kinda cringe, but what can you expect from the Butterfly Cowboy? The promo is about how wrestling is important and all, and how the most important word in all elite wrestling is wrestling. Whatever. Fletcher comes out with Don Callis, and they look very much alike. The crowd is overpowering Fletcher with boos at some points. Fletcher made a proposal to Hangman on Collision, and he is here to find the answer. Hangman invites him to the ring like a man to get his answer. Fletcher goes in, Hangman with the typical babyface promo, putting his opponent over, making small jabs. The fact that he doesn't wear socks, or he has those tiny socks, whatever. Hangman says he sees himself in Fletcher, but 6 years ago when he was standing against Jericho, which is kind of clear that Fletcher isn't going to win this one. Hangman says he isn't ready. Fletcher says he is. Hangman decides to give him a shot at the title at All Out, but under one condition. Kyle needs to do it himself without the Don Callis family. Fletcher agrees. And I'm going to be honest, this should have been a title versus title match. Fletcher also refers to it as the Men's Championship. Again, cringe, but he corrects himself later on in the show. And I'm going to be honest, Kyle Fletcher is quite amazing, both in ring and on the mic, where it really counts. You know what? 4 out of 5 stars for this one. Yes, I'm going with the star rating because screw Dave Meltzer. We move on to a promo on MJF after Collision. He wants Briscoe dead, makes some reference to his wedding, and how after his wedding, the first thing he did was leave the door, and his wife was upset, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, wrestling's more important than his wife, basically. And he says he will accept whatever stipulation Mark Briscoe decides to put for their match at All Out. Backstage segment with Matt and Nick Jackson at, I guess, MJF's wedding, whatever. They talk about what they'll do with the money after they win tonight's main event, because of course it's an all-star money match. They go to a table, they meet the Dark Order, the Dark Order kicks them off. I forgot those guys existed, to be honest. They find another table and they meet Brandon Cutler, and, well, he leaves them. Moxley then comes in and tells them nothing has changed, they are the best team ever. He puts them over, and he says they'll get all the money, but they have to show up and win. That's $250 each, $1,000 each. Decent. Now it's time for the women tag team match. Oh boy. First, Sasha Hogan and Emi Sakurai. While Sasha is dancing, Rio and Alex Windsor come to the ring. I have no clue why Sakurai is here, and this would have been a good moment to use Camille if Cockman didn't screw that story up and Camille would have been sent to the depths of Guantanamo Bay. Oh well. I understand the relationship between Sakurai and Ryo, teacher and student, whatever, though I don't think this was the moment for it. And this match is all over the place when it comes to styles. At some point, Windsor and Sasha Hogan throw probably the worst punches I have ever seen in wrestling. Ryo gets up too early at some point and she has to stand there and watch her teammate get thrown out of the ring by Sasha Hogan. There are quite a handful of botches here. And they say Sakurai kicked out when Ryo clearly turned her over for a sharpshooter. Ryo seems to be rusty as all hell, to be honest. Ryo and Windsor win with a double sharpshooter after Sakurai taps out. 2 out of 5 stars. It was kind of bad, and I was just thinking if I should give it 1. But you know what? Have it 2, just... I don't know why. Let's just say it's not good enough. It has to be very terrible as a match to get a 1, in my opinion. Backstage segment, and we have the Gates of Agony and the cringe promo from Ricochet. Whatever, he wants to fight Shelton tonight and blah blah blah. Their boys won't come in the ring. Now we get a vignette between ENC versus FTR. Reminds me of a Need for Speed video, the way they shot it and the voiceover and stuff. Really interesting. It's like I'm playing Most Wanted while looking at this. FTR comes out and Stokely says that All Out won't be a dream match but a fight. He cuts one of his bad promos, and at some point Stokely points out that neither he or the fans in the arena get any hoes. Which is quite wrong because there are people there that have come with women. Now, I'm not sure if they're sister, mother, work colleagues, platonic relationship, whatever. Doesn't matter. But there are women in the audience. And some of them with men. So, you know what? Whatever. Bald FTR says this could and should have been a dream match. But Bald FTR decides he doesn't like the boos and goes asking fans if they want to fight. First, he picks a guy that's kind of his size. And he does nothing. Then he goes to a giant guy, a really tall guy with a beer in his hand, and he wants to fight, but Bald FTR dodges him, like really moves away. Truth be told, the other target is also his size that they pick on, and they create this tough, badass persona, and they end up beating the camera guys. Talk about cringe. This shouldn't have been done to begin with if you end up beating the cameraman. No, I'm not saying they should have done this and start fighting the fans, that God forbid. But don't do that. That's such a stupid idea. Especially when Bald FTR just dodges the big guy because he's scared. Granted, who wouldn't be scared in his position? It's just, no. Don't do that. It's stupid and it just makes them look pathetic. Worse than they already are. I should be careful with this. Who knows when Bald FTR will cry about me on Twitter, or Glock FTR will do... Well, let's not get into that. Moving on, we have the Hurt Business, Hurt Syndicate, whatever, in a backstage segment with Renee Paquette. MVP wants to respond to Ricochet's challenge to a one-on-one without their boys. Shelton says he accepts. Whatever. And now we get the match. Ricochet with a coat that looks like that of a one-piece admiral. I think that's the only thing I like about him. Screw him. Shelton comes out, and during this match, Shelton is impressive, from his selling to his offense. Ricochet wrestles like he did in the Fed, which isn't a compliment. Shelton moves like Will Ospreay, by the way, like a damn panther. And you have to understand that Shelton is 50 years old. Half a century old. Anyway, we get another one of those spots where they both fall. Spanish fly on Shelton in a 2 count. Ricochet tries to use a pair of scissors on Shelton, but he gets overpowered, of course. And Shelton has them in his hand. The people are chanting ECW, ECW, but Shelton snaps them to the boos of the fans that wanted him to use them. Sad, I know. And guess what? You know, all that promise that, it's going to be one-on-one. Gates of Agony interfere. And Ricochet wins after Shelton gets headbutted. The Hurt Business comes in, and we get a brawl between the two trios. The camera misses a kick from Shelton that knocks out Ricochet. And the brawl continues until the bodyguards come in. But at certain points, Shelton just stands in the ring watching MVP and Bobby Lashley fight the two guys from the Gates of Agony. Whatever, the match is a 3 out of 5 stars, and that's mostly thanks to Shelton carrying the match. We get a vignette from Hook about how he appreciates Samoa Joe and what he did for him, and having his back. He says he understands it because, he was an athlete. You get hurt, you get replaced. He understands why he got replaced. He says while he appreciates it all, it's time for Hook to stand on his own. Or maybe not. Foreboding. I think he should adopt one of those American mafia accents and mannerisms like in The Sopranos. Like, don't make him a copy of Tony D'Angelo and don't go over the top like Tony D'Angelo. But make it there so it would give him something unique. Because he really needs something unique. We get a backstage segment with Fletcher and Callis. Of course, Ravani is there. And I'm not going to say much about this because it's just Fletcher saying that, I'm going to win and bring the world championship to the family. And Callis being like, I know you will win and bring the championship to the family. I trust you, whatever. Anyway, the match between Fletcher and Hangman is confirmed at All Out. Next, we get a Philly street fight. A street fight match. Extreme rules, if you wish. Hardcore, if you want to be pedantic. Toni Storm comes out as if she's the Sandman. She does a Sandman thing with a beer, but instead of a beer, I think it's a box of juice or something. Sky Blue comes with her own kendo stick, because they have kendo sticks, of course. Sandman can't go in without having a kendo stick. Sky at some point used a stapler on Tony's ass and her tits and her crotch. And this leads to a 2 count. Talk about a mud show. This is like an ECW parody match more than it is an ECW homage. Wow. Anyway, Toni Storm is really playing into the whole ECW stuff and the crowd. They trade forearms while sitting on the barricade. Tony comes out with a table that has rat traps on it. And he puts Sky's hand in one of the mouse traps. Blue power bombs Tony on the rat trap table. And of course the table doesn't break. Because it's AEW. The tables don't seem to want to break ever with these guys. They should probably get better tables. And then, at some point in the ring, Tony uses an electric fly swatter. Fuck. Anyway, Tony eats a powerbomb on a trash can. The countout was botched. The ref waited with his hand in the air for Tony to kick out, which is quite stupid. But when it comes to botches, this is like one of the few ones in this match, if any. Anyway, Toni Storm wins with the pile driver on the chair. Meh. It was more of a mud show than the Sasha match. But it was less botchy, and I'm gonna have to take that into account. You know what? 2.5 stars out of 5. It works. Tekla and Julia come in and attack Tony. Chris Stanlander comes to Tony's rescue. She gets beaten. 90s mom Jamie Hayter comes in and takes Tekla out. At some point, Hayter takes her own beating after accidentally hitting Chris and knocking her out. Then Tekla takes out Tony with a spear and does the spider over her. Now we go to a backstage segment where we have Willow talking about how she wants to fight Marina Shafir. Harley Cameron comes in and does a cute song about painting cats on your face, whatever. Harley Cameron really rescues this segment. Harley Cameron is probably one of those the most underrated wrestler they have currently in AEW, because her talents are brilliant and she really deserves more of a spotlight. Anyway, she wants Willow to join their team, her team and Chris Statlander, but Willow says no because she has bad experiences with Statlander and tells Harley to watch her back. Cats on your face. We get a promo for Collision, and we learn there will be a 3-way unified match at All Out, because we get another tournament thingy with 3 participants, and it's probably gonna be Takeshita, Okada, and I have no idea who else was. The Beast Mortos. These are my picks. Doesn't matter. Time for the main event. First, we have the Young Bucks coming out, and they come out to a weird song, and they have their legal names on screen. Whatever. The 500k is on the announce desk, so technically anybody can go and steal it. The Death Rider come next. Always like them coming through the crowd. I always like that. Now it's time for the faces to come in. And we start with the Ops, followed by Brodito. And this will be a cluster of a match. Anyway, Jackson and Bandito start the match. Nick Jackson, I should say. The crowd has less flattering words for Yura, but that is to be expected. Samoa Joe at some point destroying Yura. And I think John should replace Yura with Hook as the protege of the group. And I think that would be very funny. We get Shibata and Claudio in the ring, and we need more of these two wrestling each other. No teams or interferences. Hopefully. Oh, who am I kidding? We know that's gonna happen all the time. It devolves into a brawl, as you expect from this kind of match, and then a Young Bucks beatdown. For one reason or another, this didn't evolve that many times into brawls between the teams. The Bucks are desperate to win, and it's clearly for the money. They really are taking the heat for their team. At some point, Shibata and Joe were watching their teammates get attacked by 4 people and did nothing. This seems to be a trend today, I don't know why. The heels win after Nick helps Matt pin Bandito by putting his feet on the rope. The Bucks grab the bag of money, then they get attacked by Brody King. The Dead Riders are beating up the Ops. I guess Brodito just stopped caring after the match was over. Darby Allin comes to the rescue of the Ops. Darby gets the upper hand. And then, out of nowhere, Garcia attacks Darby. Of all the people to join the Death Riders, Garcia is the worst option. And it looks like Garcia, the man Charisma forgot, wants to do a proper curb stomp on Darby on a chair. But he misses the chair. He's intentionally not pushing his head on the chair, but pushing it to the left on the mat. And the camera catches that. Now that is quite bad. Like, of all the moments they lose in AEW, this should have been one of them. But no, you lose proper attacks like chair shots and kicks and stuff like that. But you don't lose this botch. Because why would you lose the botches? I think that's part of the thing that makes AEW so great, is that you get to see the botches and you don't get to see the good parts. Whatever. He does it again, and this time he really hits the chair. I think it was probably John and Darby telling him, just hit him on the chair. It's going to be right. It's going to be all right. Anyway. Again, using Garcia instead of Hook or a more veteran wrestler is, in my opinion, one huge mistake. Like, Garcia is really bad in both aspects that matter in wrestling. And he isn't... No. It's probably like a double agent story at this point with Garcia. But, meh, I couldn't care about Daniel Garcia at all. I'll give the match 3 out of 5, the same way I gave the Tony Storm match a 2.5 out of 5. Because it's not as bad as other things. Overall, it was decent, I would say. Nothing to write home about. Nothing wow to look at. It suffers from the same problem that AEW always suffers from. The same kind of booking. But hey, the Young Bucks get another win. I'm sure that's gonna do it. You know what? I wonder if they'll pull more than 400k viewers this time around. With this card and this story and this booking, I really doubt it. 3 out of 5 star show. That's kind of what it is.